Welcome, Leader Lapid, my friend. It's really wonderful to have you here. We appreciate your taking time for us. There are some topics that I think everyone wants to hear about. I want to start with a topic I know we need to hear about, and that's in the national security space. You and I have spoken about how powerful it was as the Abraham Accords moved forward for you to visit these countries. Well, one of the topics that always came up was the threat of Iran. And let's start, if I may, with where we are at this moment when so many of us in this room look at the world standing against Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and yet the inability to really coalesce around the need for the world to stand up to Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons and its support for terror throughout the world. Your insight here, given your vast experience, I think would be most welcome. And if we could start with that, and again, it's really great to have you on our stage. We really appreciate it.
So this is how we're going to play, directly to Iran? No hi, no how are you, how have you been this month? Thank you, Ted. I'm fine. And how are you, my friend?
This is my first time doing this as AJC CEO. There's a lot they want to hear. I don't want to get in trouble for leaving anything out.
You're right. You're right. No, and everybody's so happy with you moving up in the world because you were a politician before. Everywhere you go is moving up in the world. So, okay.
How's your family?
Lee is fine. She says hi. Yeah. Okay. So, well, you have combined actually what was meant to be combined, because you cannot separate the Ukrainian issue from the Iranian issue because Iran was the first and right now far most influential country to move to be on the side of Russia, being the biggest supplier of drones. They're now building a factory together and so on and so forth. I mean, what they're doing is it's like a combination of evilness. And another proof, if anyone needed another proof, to the fact that whatever is wrong in this world, Iran is going to be involved. And part of the problem we have now, this is not in the center of the global attention. You're right, the bigger threat, not only to Israel, but it's existential for us, but it's a huge threat to the entire Middle East and hence, and therefore to the world per se, is a nuclear Iran. But the world in general, and the United States specifically, is preoccupied with the war in Ukraine, with China, or the Pacific in general, with climate change, with other issues. And of course, with domestic issues, like anyone else. I was reading about the Trump indictment and so on and so forth. Yeah, well. So, the easiest way of getting the Iranian issue off the table for the current administration is signing a deal that will make it possible for them to say, okay, we dealt with this, and now we can deal with more urgent issues. This will be very wrong. And on this, there is no coalition and opposition in Israel. Everybody's on the same note, telling the American administration, do not sign a bad deal. We saw what happened last time you did it. Right now, Iran, a couple of months ago, has enriched uranium to 84%. When they were asked about it, they say it was by mistake. I think I'm on the details of what it is, and there's no way of enriching 84% by mistake. So they are poking the word on the chest and saying, okay, we're going to try some stuff and make sure and see if you care. And we need to tell them, yes, we do. Israel will do its thing, as we did when I was prime minister, as we're doing now, as we did before I was prime minister, and as we did in the last 20 years. But still, This needs to be part of a global mission. This needs to be orchestrated, and the Americans are the ones who needs to orchestrate it. And just signing less for less or some sort of a new version of the JCPOA is not good enough trying to stop Iran from becoming nuclear.
And doesn't...
Thank you.
Don't the members of the IAEA, doesn't the International Atomic Energy Agency have a responsibility to actually take action when Iran continues to flout the rules of the international non-proliferation efforts?
Well, they should, but in order to deal with, as they were saying just a week ago, to deal with what we call the open cases, they need new evidence. And in order to get the evidence, you need to be out there, boots on the ground, which is becoming more and more difficult. So it's, right now what they're saying is that, unlike what it was published, they didn't close the files, they just said, we have no new evidence and therefore we have nowhere to go to. We will deal with it later, or we'll keep it open, but in a frozen kind of way. So it's their responsibility, but I think the more important issue is what is the world doing while Iran is openly, or almost openly, promoting its nuclear program.
AJC will continue to try to move this issue front and center where it needs to be, particularly in the United States, even as we work through our offices around the world to get the IRGC finally designated as the terrorist organization that it is. Moving away from the regime in Tehran to the shared values that exist between Israel and the United States. Liberal democracy, we talk about the U.S. and Israel, we talk about shared values. Democracy is always right at the top of the list. It's part of what contributes to the special relationship between our two countries. How important has it been to the relationship between the U.S. and Israel over 75 years? And looking out from here into the future, how important is that value for both countries?
Nothing is more important. Nothing is more important for Israel, period. I mean, it has to do with the relationship with the United States. But first and foremost, this is an internal Israeli issue. We need to be a democracy, because if we will not be a democracy, this means our economy will go down the drain, our military might is going to be eroding in an unbelievable pace. Our ability to live together as a society is already under terrible attrition. And on the long term, or not even long, if we will not be a democracy, we will not be. It's existential. Israel was founded as a democracy. This is the source of our power. It amazes me that there are so many people who do not understand the fact that there is a reason why is it that the only democracy in the Middle East is also the most successful country in the Middle East. Those issues has to do with each other. We are successful because you need the vibrance and the vitality of a democracy in order to build the startup nation, in order to build the IDF, the army that it is, in order to make this 9 million Jews who are living in the wrong neighborhood such a huge success story. And the problem we have is that democracies on the 21st century are not dying while tanks are surrounding the parliament. It's just a slow motion attrition towards, and what is happening now, there's too many people who are talking about the possibility of Israel becoming some sort of an illiberal democracy, Hungarian style, forgetting only one thing: there's no such thing as an illiberal democracy. If it's not based on liberal values, women's rights, LGBT rights, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and so on and so forth, then it's not a real democracy, and therefore it's some, yeah. So we need to fight this, and the other reason we need to fight this is, as you said, this is the core of the relations we have with the United States. And the fact that this relationship is bipartisan, it also has to do with it. And we need to make sure we maintain Israel as a democracy for that sake as well.
Beyond those political connections, we're here, 1,500 strong, because we believe in Israel and because we value the importance of Israel-diaspora relations. And we find ourselves here at a moment where within Israel, coming from America, where we see rising polarization, we see greater division, rising challenges for our community, we come to Israel where there seems to be greater division than certainly many of us remember from recent visits. How should we be viewing that? And as Jews who are so committed to our advocacy on behalf of Israel, what should we be doing? What can we do to help address that and to ensure that Israel continues to value diaspora Jewry as much as the diaspora values Israel?
Well, there is no fluent answer for this. But A, you come here because you love the state of Israel and the people of Israel, not necessarily the government of Israel. I love the state of Israel and the people of Israel, not necessarily the government of Israel. And governments, as long as we are a democracy, governments come and go, the state of Israel stays. This family of ours stays. So, yeah, I'm sometimes unhappy with, I don't know, my kids or my wife, but they're still my family. And so this leads me to the second point. The second point, okay, you come here and you see the division and you see the struggle. But don't you find yourself really proud when you see those hundreds of thousands of Israelis who are marching the streets saying, I'm not going to give up on democracy, I'm not going to give up on our values, I'm not going to give up on Israel as a beacon for freedom in this region, because this is why we're out there. And you came for this, at least as you did, coming here, talking to the government or to government officials.
When we were here about 6 months ago, we met with you and asked the very simple question, what message do you have for diaspora Jews? American Jewish Committee operates all around the world. We advocate on behalf of the entirety of the Jewish people. The message was clear then, and you looked at us and you said, don't give up on us. So we're here 6 months later in dramatic fashion. All of us going back to our communities all across America, all across the world, I ask the same question. What's the message that you would give to us to take away from this visit to Israel?
I will go forward with what I've started 6 months ago. Telling you, I mean, there's so many people who's going to say, well, it's none of your business what we're doing here in our little tense realm. This is not true. You have a voice in this. Israel cannot come to you for decades and telling you we are a family and then tell you not to speak your mind when something is wrong. Now, we need to hear this voice. We need, if there's criticism, this is what happens within a family. If there are questions, families ask questions. What we need to know is that we have this open dialogue. Sometimes we will say, okay, you know what, I've sent my boy to the army, he might get killed, and on this and that issue, we're saying there's a full stop, and this is an internal issue. But basically, you should have a voice on this. You should tell us what you think. And we want to hear what you have to say. I mean, there are parts of the Israeli society who finds some twisted joy in surrounding themselves with emotional and intellectual walls and not listening to anyone but people who feel the same or think the same. I am not doing this. I want to hear you. The Israelis want to hear you. The vast majority of Israelis who believe in the same values you are want to have an open dialogue, so you have a voice, and this will be my message to you today, 6 months after the first message. Ted, you said you're doing this for the first time, right? Don't you ever interrupt them when they're clapping me.
I'll do better than that. I will do better than that. I will give them the opportunity to give an unlimited amount of applause and to express their deep gratitude, as I will, for your taking time out of your very busy schedule to join with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Yair Lapid.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.